Namaskar students. Hope you are hale and hearty, taking care of your health and your studies. My name is Jyotsna and I am from Education Department, Chandigarh. Before starting today's session, I would like to recall the chapter number 2 from grade 10 book of Democratic Politics, where we saw the students were discussing in Madam Lingdo's class about democracy. By the end of that lesson, we get to know that democracy is the best form of government all around the world. But there is a dilemma which is attached with democracy. The dilemma is very simple, that democracy is an excellent principle, but somehow it lacks the practice. So do we adhere to democratic principles or democratic mindset just because of the moral values attached to it, or is there any prudential reason we have to follow democracy? That's what we are going to discuss today in chapter number 7 of your grade 10 book, wherein we shall be taking into consideration the outcomes of democracy. The name of the book is Democratic Politics Part 2 and name of the chapter is Outcomes of Democracy. So, without wasting any time, let's get going. In this chapter, we will learn how to assess the outcomes of democracy. We will get to know the expected and actual outcomes of democracy in various respects, such as quality of government, economic well-being, inequality, social differences and conflict, and finally, freedom and dignity. So let's start with democracy. As we know, democracy is a form of government in which the citizen is eligible to choose their representatives in the government. In addition, it enables the citizens to give their voice in legislation. While on the other hand, dictatorship is a form of government in which the entire power resides in the hand of a single person, that is the dictator. Since the 19th and 20th century, both democracy and dictatorship emerged as a major form of government in the world. Starting with the democracy, democracy is a form of government in which the majority of people elect the government. Furthermore, the general public takes interest in the form of government as they have the right to elect their representatives. Moreover, public participation is very important in a democratic system. Also, the citizens of the country participate and are aware of the social issues and their right to vote. Furthermore, there is a sense of responsibility in the people. Besides, the representatives are elected by means of elections and they are monitored impartially to ensure system integrity. So let's take into consideration certain characteristics of democracy. There are some basic qualities or characteristics of democracy that are equality, political freedom and the rule of law. Moreover, democracy runs over the principle of majority rule. Furthermore, the eligible people have access to the legislative and they are equal before the law. In addition, every eligible citizen's vote has equal weight and value. Also, the Constitution protects the liberties and right of the citizen of the country. Moreover, the Constitution protects human rights through coordination and cooperation, and it offers to represent the diversity of all communities. Besides, equality is the heart of democracy. So let's see what is dictatorship. It is a form of government in which absolute power is in the hand of the dictator. Also, the dictator exercises this power in his self-interest. Furthermore, the dictator acts like the whole nation itself. And let's see the characteristics of dictatorship. The main characteristic of dictatorship are the suspension of the election, rule by decree, lack of civil liberties, repression of political opponents and proclamation of the state of emergency without acting in harmony with the rule of law. Furthermore, dictators take advantage of their position. They do so by restraining the freedom of speech of the citizen. Also, they do so to maintain their political and social supremacy. People do not have the right to voice against the ways by which they are governed. In addition, there are no elections and people do not have the right to choose their representatives. All the rules and regulations are made by a single person, which of course is the dictator. Moreover, a single person, whom we call the dictator, makes the law so at times that they become brutal for the masses. Most noteworthy, the dictator pays fewer regards to the rights of the people. In conclusion, the democratic form of government is enjoyed by the people and it gives a great deal of liberty to people, and the power is in the hand of masses. On the other hand, dictatorship takes away all those rights and liberties. Furthermore, power is in the hand of a single person. In a democracy, development happens to fulfill the need of the people. On the other hand, in dictatorship, development happens according to the dictator. Above all, democracy is the best form of government that most of the nations of the world love and practice. So, how do we assess democracy's outcomes? Democracy is a better form of government than dictatorship in the following respects. First and foremost, it promotes equality among citizens. So, what do we mean by it? Democracy promotes equality among citizens. There is no discrimination on the basis of religion, caste, color, race, etc. And in democracy, every citizen takes part in decision making through the process of elections, and this enhances the dignity of the individual. Next, it improves the quality of decision making. So, how does it improve the quality of decision making? First and foremost, democracy completely relies on consultation and discussion. A democratic decision always involves a large group of people, their discussions and meetings. They are able to point out possible mistakes in any sort of decision. This process may take time. However, the advantage of taking time over important decision is an added plus point. It reduces the chances of rash, irrelevant or irresponsible decisions. Rule by majority depicts that in case of every decision or in case of every election, different persons and groups may and they can form a majority. These majority people take the decision to run a government. Moving on, democracy provides a method to resolve conflicts. Now, how does it happen? In any society, people are bound to have differences of opinions and interests. These differences are particularly sharp in our country, which has amazing social diversity. People belong to different regions, speak different languages, practice different religions, and have different castes. The preference of one group can clash with those of the other. The conflict can be resolved by brutal power. Whichever group is more powerful will dictate its terms and others will have to accept that. But that will lead to resentment. So, democracy provides the only peaceful solution to this problem. In democracy, no one is permanent winner, no one is permanent loser. Different groups can live with one another peacefully. In a diverse country like India, democracy allows different kinds of people to live together. Moving on, democracy allows room to correct mistakes. There is no guarantee that mistakes cannot be made in democracy. The advantage in a democracy is that such mistakes cannot be hidden for long. There is a space for public discussion on these mistakes, and there is a room for correction. Either the rulers have to change their decisions or the rulers can be changed. So, democracy produces accountable, responsive, and legitimate government. People have the right to choose their rulers and they have control over their rulers. Citizens can participate in decision making. Thus, democracy produces a government that is accountable to the citizens and responsive to the needs and expectations of the citizens. Democracy ensures that decision making is based on norms and procedures. So, a citizen who wants to know if a decision was taken through the correct procedures can find out this information. Citizens can take part in decision making whenever they want. A democratic government is the people's own government. People wish to be ruled by representatives elected by them. So let's take up economic growth and development. Economic development depends on several factors: the country's population, size, global situation, cooperation from other countries, economic priorities adopted by the country, etc. There is a significant difference in the rates of economic growth between countries under dictatorship and democracy. So, democracy is preferred as it has several positive outcomes. So, let's take up economic outcomes of democracy. It helps in eradication of various programs and policies that are not beneficial for the people of the country. Now, though economic development in democracies is not as high as dictatorship, however, it does help in reduction of economic disparity in a country. Dictatorial regime has had a slightly better record of economic growth, but when we compare their record only in poor countries, there is virtually no difference. There can be very high degree of inequalities within democracies. There is often inequality of opportunities available to the poorer section of the society. Also, there are various factors that affect the economic growth of the country, like population size, global situation, cooperation from the other countries, economic priorities of the country, which we discussed earlier as well. So, let's take up reduction of inequality and poverty. All individuals have equal weight in electing representatives. In the process of bringing individuals into the political arena on an equal footing, we find growing economic inequalities. A small number of ultra rich enjoy a highly disproportionate share of wealth and incomes. Their share in the total income of the country has been increasing. Those at the bottom strata of society have very little to depend upon. Their incomes have been declining. In actual life, democracies do not appear to be very successful in reducing economic inequalities. Moving on, let's take about accommodation of social diversity. No society can fully and permanently resolve conflicts among different groups, but we can learn to respect these differences and we can evolve mechanisms to negotiate the differences. Democracy is best suited to produce the outcome. Ability to handle social differences, divisions, and conflicts is a plus point of democratic regimes. But democracy must fulfill two conditions in order to achieve the outcome. First and foremost, the majority always needs to work with the minority so that governments function to represent the general view. Second, rule by majority means that in case of every decision or in case of every election, different persons and groups may and can form a majority. Now let's take up dignity and freedom of citizens. Democracy stands much superior to any other form of government in promoting the dignity and freedom of the individual. The passion for respect and freedom are the basis of democracy. Let's take the case of dignity of women. The long struggles by women have created some sensitivity that respect and equal treatment of women are necessary ingredients of a democratic society. The same is true of caste inequality. Democracy in India has strengthened the claims of disadvantaged and discriminated castes for equal status and equal opportunity. Most individuals today believe that their vote makes a difference to the way the government is run and to their own self interest. Democratic examination never gets over. As it passes one test, it produces another test. As people get some benefit of democracy, they ask for more and want to make democracy even better. The fact that people are complaining is itself a testimony to the success of democracy. Democracy produces a government that is accountable to citizens and is responsive to their needs and expectations. It makes sure that people have the right to choose their rulers, and if these representatives do not work according to the people, people have the right to remove them. A democratic government is a legitimate government, as it is elected by citizens and enjoys the confidence and trust of the citizens. It follows procedures and its decisions are more acceptable to the people and are more effective. Regular elections are a key feature of the democratic government. Democracy produces a responsive government where people start taking actions when the government becomes insensitive about their aspirations. People can force the government to respond to them through protest, campaigns, and rallies. Democracies accommodate social diversities. As democracy is not just the rule of the majority, in democratic countries, both the majority and minority work together to achieve progress and development of the nation. It is also necessary that the rule by majority does not become rule by majority community in terms of religion or race or linguistic group. Any person or group may become a majority in a democracy. In the end, we can just conclude by saying that for the development of a country, it is important to focus on human resources. The country is made up of its people and it cannot grow until its population is literate and healthy. By increasing the literacy rate and improving the health standards of its people, the government can develop the required human resources which are essential for the industrial development of the country. Alright, let's have a quick recap of what we did today. We started off with democracy and how it is better than dictatorship. Then we moved on to the various outcomes of democracy, in which we discussed how democracy promotes equality among citizens, improves the quality of decision making, provides a method to resolve conflicts, allows room to correct mistakes, and then we discussed how democracy produces accountable, responsive, and legitimate government. How economic growth or economic outcomes are dependent on democracy or dictatorship. Then we discussed reduction of inequality and poverty, accommodation of social diversity, and then dignity and freedom of the citizens. Quickly analyze what we have learned from today's session. Let's check if these statements are true or false. So, a democratic government is an accountable government. True. Democracies have successfully eliminated conflicts among people. No, it is false. The disadvantaged and discriminated castes have gained in strength due to democracy. True. Political outcome signifies military rule. False. On your screens, you can see a statement. Along with that, you have 4 options. You have to pick the correct option. So, let's start. The basic outcome of democracy is political, social, and economic outcome, military outcome, restricted and limited welfare policies, elimination of poverty. This is option A, political, social, and economic outcome. Moving on, if government provides its citizens a right and means to examine the process of decision, it is an accountable government, a responsive government, a transparent government, a stable government? The answer is, it is an accountable government. What do democracies ensure regarding decision making? Process of transparency, decisions taken by the head of the country, decision by the Council of Ministers, or restricted popular participation in decision making? Again, the correct option is option A, process of transparency. Okay. A government that takes decision by following norms and a proper procedure is an accountable government, a responsible government, a transparent government, or a stable government? Yes, it is a transparent government. We have just done it in the previous question. A democratic government is an accountable government, a responsive government, a legitimate government, or all of the above. Yes, a democratic government carries all the above features, which makes it an accountable, responsive, and legitimate government. So before I sign off today, I would just like to say that yes, probably democracy does have its own challenge, but as a part of world's biggest democratic country, as proud citizens of India, it is our duty to do each and everything in the interest of the nation. If we do that, trust me, there is nothing which our country cannot achieve. If each one of us realize our duty towards our country in order to safeguard the democratic principles, we shall not only preserve the title of being world's biggest democracy, but we will also contribute our country to scale the greatest heights. With this, I take your leave today. We'll be back with many more videos. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep studying. Namaskar.